Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've been well. This is the extended ham radio portion. I already filmed everything in the whole video, but realized I think I didn't really do an intro because I'm gonna split the videos into two. Anyway, this is the intro to the ham portion. Also, I probably will forget to cut into it, but at the end of the original COMMS video, so you're watching like the ham-centric portion, I have a bigger section of the video. If you haven't watched it already, it's just the previous upload to this probably. I talk a little bit more about ham at the end of that video where I'm talking about kind of the survival and prepper type implications of ham radio. So check out the end of that video also because I'll probably forget to splice that back into this video on ham stuff. All right, hope you enjoy. Okay, ham radio. So I'm very much a ham radio noob. I have some friends that are very into ham radio and they were trying to get me into it for a long time before I did because I just didn't want to take the test. That was the main thing. I was like, I don't want to take the test. You guys are a bunch of nerds, and I call them ham nerds. They probably don't like that, but I love them and they're great. Great dudes, all my ham nerd friends out there. I'm not really a ham nerd. I'm a ham noob. But anyways, you do have to take a test. That's the primary thing. It's kind of a gray area. You don't need to take a test to own a ham radio, and you can listen on a ham radio without your license, but you just can't broadcast, so you can't talk on a radio without your license. So there are various stages, and one day, two of my close friends that I go wheeling with a lot, they got their ham radio license, and I was just like, just get a CB, guys, just get a CB. And they're like, no, we're ham now, we're ham. And I was like, okay, well, I gotta get it. So I scheduled my test for a month out, and I was gonna practice and study and take the test and be very prepared, but I never did. There's books you can get, there's study guides, there's in-person like study courses you can do, there's all kinds of stuff you can do if you really wanna get into it. But I used an app on my phone. There's a bunch of them out there. Just search like ham test prep and download the one with the highest ratings. And that'll allow you to study all the material, and it will also allow you to take practice tests. Okay, so I scheduled my ham radio test for a month out. Didn't really study. I think, when I was taking a dump or something, I did like 2 or 3 practice tests leading up to it. And then the night before, I was like, I really need to study. And I was like, it's probably too late, I'm probably gonna fail, but I'll study anyway. So I put in about 2 or 3 hours of just taking the practice tests the night before. The next morning I went in, very sure that I was gonna fail. And I was just going to get my technician's license, which is the lowest one. Very sure I would fail because all I really put in was like 3 hours max. Went in and I got 100% actually. There's about 4 questions that I guessed on and I just guessed right, but it's not that hard. So if you have a few hours to study, take the practice tests, and get your license. That's kind of the first step, because a lot of people will call it like the art of ham radio. There's so much you can do, and ham radio in and of itself is a hobby for thousands of people out there. But it's good because it's kind of like right down my alley. Ham radio guys, a lot of them are like the prepper types. A lot of them are like kind of overlander, outdoor types. So it's a good group of guys to get in with. Now, a lot of them, like I said earlier, really nerd out, and I don't really nerd out. I primarily use my ham radio when I'm out on the trail. But if you want to install a home setup, you can get to your local repeater. There's all kinds of meetings. There's all kinds of regulars. You can develop friendships and relationships and all kinds of stuff through ham radio. So it's a really cool hobby to get into especially if you have time and you're social and you want to meet a bunch of people. There's all kinds of contests, how far you can go, and if you can bounce it off like a comet or an astro. I mean, there's crazy stuff with ham. And I'm not that much into it. Again, like I said earlier, I really just use it when I'm out on the trail, but I do sometimes hit repeaters when I'm on a drive. And there's all kinds of programs and all kinds of websites out there where if you're going on a long road trip or if you're going on a trail that's pretty remote, you can find the repeaters in the area. So that way, if your vehicle doesn't have the range to reach other people, you can bounce it off the repeater and reach other people. Now, ham radio, I have a stubby one. True ham guys will look at this and just scoff because they want the biggest antenna and the most range ever. And this is like a sign that I'm not a real ham guy, because I care more about on my daily rig, because I'm not using ham all the time again, just something that's small. I can go through car washes. It doesn't hit my garage. It's just, so I like this guy. but it has about the least amount of range for a vehicle mounted setup that you can get. It still is going to have more range and more powerful than pretty much any handheld, but you're really kind of underutilizing the power that you have. I do have a longer antenna. I keep it in the back, and if I'm gonna use my ham radio for any amount of time, I'll usually swap that antenna on. But if I'm just going on a short trail ride with some other friends that have hams, and I know I'm just gonna do simplex, which is basically one vehicle ham to another vehicle ham or handheld or whatever, then this will do the trick out to a few miles. I don't know where I was going with any of that, but you have a ton of range with ham. You put on a bigger antenna, you put a more powerful receiver in there. There are limits kind of to, I think vehicle is 50, maybe 75 watts. So basically you can get more range with a bigger tuned antenna or more range with more wattage. Obviously you can combine the two of them for the maximum amount of range. So I have this little stubby one, which is my least amount of range. I have a bigger one, and I'll link to all this stuff. I have a store, amazon.com/shop/last line of defense, where it's just like I make a wish list basically of stuff that I use and can recommend. Then you can browse the list and get whatever you want. So I have these on there in my other antenna. In addition, I have what's called a Slim Jim, I think, though if you search Slim Jim, I don't think you'll find it. I'll link to it down below if I remember. If I don't and you're interested, just comment and I'll add the link. But it's basically a coiled up antenna that you can fling up over a tree with some paracord and pull up way up in the sky, and that'll extend your range even further. So with a bigger antenna, you get more range, kind of no duh. And then you can also, my unit, which is the Yaesu FTM 400, you can use it as a repeater. So if you have your car, you park it somewhere, you just leave your ham radio on, put your big antenna, and you're gonna go on a hike, and you just have your handhelds, and you're gonna go far away from each other. You're just gonna try and you wanna talk to a vehicle. You're gonna go on a hike, but your friend's gonna come meet you, and you wanna be able to communicate, but your handheld doesn't have the power. You can even use your vehicle as a repeater to extend the range of your handheld to reach somebody else further. So it's just like, that's just a very small kind of insight into what you can do with ham. And that's just scratching the surface. So yeah, I have a ham radio vehicle, Yaesu FTM 400 with the hood mount antenna here. Really, and again, the real ham guys are gonna be like, oh, center mounted and the metal, all this stuff. This isn't the best for distance. If you really want to push your distance, if you're really into the ham, this might not be the best setup, but for everything I do, it's more than sufficient. So if you're like me and you're kind of mostly using it for the trail, great way to go. No permanent modifications to your vehicle. You can just take that right off and you're good to go. You can move it out to another car if you sell this and you don't want to mess with like a permanent mount somewhere else and drilling holes. It's good option. And then the nice thing about most ham radios is you can have two channels. So if you are with a big group of people and you're like, oh, we're all going to be on such and such channel, and then you have like your close group of people, you can be on a separate channel. And you can listen to both channels, but you can only broadcast on one, or you can flip over and broadcast on the other. So it's a great way to kind of split up communications. Or if you're going to meet a group and you guys are all going to tune into a repeater, you can have that repeater frequency on, and then you can also have your like private channel where you're talking to your friends or whatever. So really a lot of flexibility, a lot of power in how to use ham. And it's just, once you learn a little bit about it, it is super, super convenient. And I think that's as far into ham radios I'm going to go, because again, I'm a ham noob. It's much more powerful than I'm even saying it is. And the thing is that not many people are into it because it's very, very intimidating. They're like, oh, you gotta pay money and you gotta get a license and you gotta do all this stuff. My testing was actually free. Some places it's like $5. Some places it's a donation. So don't be intimidated by cost. Getting a little bit of the gear does add up in cost, but there are relatively cheap units. And the other thing is, if you find a local ham radio club, or if you have a ham radio outlet or some type of ham store nearby, the people they want to get more people. The true ham guys want to get more people into ham radio. They want to spread it. They want to grow it. They want to really just make ham radio like more accepted by more people. So if you go in and you genuinely want to learn more about it, then you can go in and there's going to be dozens of guys that'll just share all of their information with you. There'll be guys that'll come help you install it on your vehicle, get good antenna mount placement. There's these things called field days where kind of all the local ham guys get together and go out and do stuff. A lot of them are into overlanding and camping and have cool rigs and all that kind of stuff. And they go and they do, they play around and they try to reach Australia, but they also kind of talk about systems and sometimes do like show and tells and tutorial type stuff. So it's a huge community, but it's intimidating. And I was kind of intimidated by it, but I want you to know, don't be intimidated, because all of the ham guys that I've ever met are like super generous and super kind, and they're not like so pretentious that they won't dumb stuff down for you. Because when you don't know anything about ham, you're just like, I don't know anything about ham. And it's easy for them to just talk like way over your head, but just say, hey, start at the basics. I know nothing. All right, now give me the information that I need. And they'll configure the right kit for you within your budget and all the stuff that works good. Or if you have the money and you want a really sexy unit like the Yaesu FTM 400, which I have, then do it. And yeah, it's been a long week, so I'm kind of probably rambling and repeating myself more than usual. So I apologize for that. But that's gonna wrap it up. Maybe I'll do a longer video with some ham expert and he can answer kind of all the questions. If you have any questions about ham or my setup or anything like that, comment down below and I will answer it to the best of my ability. If not, I'll ask somebody maybe that knows better, or maybe if you're a true ham nerd like a lot of you guys are, I'm sure, answer those questions down in the comments for other people. Help them out. So questions are very welcome. All right, I think that's gonna do it for the ham radio portion of this video. Again, this was kind of like a cutout of a longer video where I'm talking about communications. So search my channel. It's probably the previous video to this for that video if you want to know like a little bit more about all the stuff I'm talking about.